Good morning. I call to order the County of Placer Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, November 20th, 2012 at 9:02 a.m. We'll begin this morning with the flag salute led by Supervisor Duran. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Supervisor Duran. Now we will have the statement of meeting procedures read by our clerk of the board, Ann Holman.
Welcome to the Placer County Board of Supervisors meeting of Tuesday, November 20th, 2012. Agendas are available on the wall outside this meeting room. If you are here to speak on an issue not appearing on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment period. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under public comment. When you speak, clearly state your name and address for the record. All items on the agenda will be open for the public to address before final action is taken. There's a 3-minute time limit per speaker, which will be monitored by a timer on the podium. If there is a person speaking on behalf of a group with no other testimony from another member of the group, please identify yourself as such, and your time may be extended at the pleasure of the board. Keep in mind that the chairman has the discretion of limiting the total discussion time on any item. If you are hearing impaired, we have listening devices available. It is requested that all pagers and cell phones be either turned off or put in the silent mode. Thank you for your participation and cooperation.
Thank you, Ann. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone may address the board on any item not on today's agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, since the time allocated for public comment is 15 minutes. If all comments cannot be taken at the beginning of the meeting, within the 15-minute time limit, public comment will be taken up again at the end of our regular session. And also, please understand that the board is not permitted to take any action on any items addressed under public comment. So if there is anyone who has a public comment on any item not on today's agenda, now is your opportunity to come forward and bring that to the attention of the board. Wow, I can't remember a meeting where we didn't have public comments. All right, in that case, I'm going to close public comments and move to Supervisors' committee reports. Any supervisors have any committee reports? Boy, this is going to be a quick meeting. All right, I see no committee reports. Speed it up, sister. All right, Mr. Holmes. He can't wait to be chair next year. He's chomping at the bit. All right, we will move to our consent agenda item. This will be a roll call. All items on the consent agenda have been recommended for approval by the County Executive Department. The board will convene as the Placer County successor agency for item 21A and B. And all items will be approved by a single roll call vote. Anyone may ask to address consent items prior to the board taking action, and that item may be moved for discussion. Any requests for pulling anything off consent, either by the board or any member of the public?
Madam Chair, I don't have any. Do you want to pull anything off?
Would you turn your microphone on, please?
Madam Chair, I don't want to pull anything off, but I do want to make a comment about 2 items afterwards. All right?
All right. In that case, what is the pleasure of the board?
Move approval.
This is a roll call.
Yes.
Duran? Wygant? Yes. Holmes? Yes. Euler? Yes. Montgomery?
Yes. Supervisor Duran?
Yes. I just wanted to comment on 2 of the items that have been moved via consent. And both of these items are commendations. And they are, in my opinion, very important commendations. And I just wanted to make sure that they just weren't kind of glossed over on our consent agenda. The first one is for commendation recognizing Captain George Malum for 25 years of dedicated public service as an employee of Placer County Sheriff's Office. For those of you that may not know Captain Malum is the person who is taking care of our hotel that we have there, both in Auburn and the new one that we're building here in Roseville. He's been with the Placer County Sheriff's Office for 25 years. He's done a terrific job. He's done a great job managing the client population that we have here in Placer County, and I wish him the best in the future. The second is a commendation for Derek Whitehead. Derek Whitehead works for the City of Roseville. He's been very integral with the South Placer Water Authority and a couple of other authorities, and he has also 25 years of service with the City of Roseville, and I also want to congratulate him on his retirement. So, thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Duran. Yes, George was not able to be here this morning. He had some other obligations, but I did make a point at Medler's this morning of bringing forward this very item and congratulated George on his retirement. And he said, and it was really, it really spoke to him as an individual. He said his entire life he wanted to be a police officer, and he considered that he never went to a day of work in 25 years, but he went to what he loved doing. And I think that just speaks really highly of him as an individual. All right, so that was consent. We are a little bit shy of our 9:10 items, so we will start with department item number 6, Board of Supervisors. We're being asked to approve the minutes of October 23rd, 2012. Supervisor Euler was absent, hence it being a department item. What is the pleasure of the board on this? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. All right. I think we're 1 minute shy of our 9:10 item, but I believe I'm going to go to it anyway because I think we have everyone here that we need to have here. This is the Board of Supervisors commemorative coin presentation. It's something that we do every year. It's an opportunity for us as individual supervisors to really recognize people who have done amazing things in the county and in their districts and in service to their community. And these are either for specific acts of heroism, some of which we've recognized over the years, long-standing community service, or other exceptional acts that have dramatically improved or impacted people's lives within their communities, within their districts, and within the county. We do this each year, and it is by district, so I'm going to start with Supervisoral District 1 and Supervisor Duran.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Today we are going to commemorate and provide an award to a family, really, that has worked tirelessly in the Roseville, City of Roseville, and in West Placer for over 22 years. And as I learned more about them and I read about their story, I began to understand that there are a lot of parallels here with how I stepped up into public service. So I'm going to have Liz and Greg, you want to come down and come to the podium here. I want to introduce Liz and Greg Goldthorpe. They're the owners of a newspaper that started out as a very humble beginning, and actually the way it started out was the folks were attending community events in Antelope, and there were so many events that happened and were occurring that they kind of lost track of what was going on. But rather than step back and say, hey, you know, this is too much for us, they actually engaged it and created a newspaper. And one newspaper led to another newspaper, and one newspaper led to another newspaper, and presently, over the past 22 years, not only do they have the Antelope News, but it's extended to include the Wood Creek News, the Sun Senior News for Sun City Roseville, and the Sun Senior News for Sun City Lincoln Hills. Now, running a newspaper is one thing, but running a free newspaper is another thing, and all the challenges that come with that. And in the 12-plus years that I've known Liz and Greg, they've worked very tirelessly on a lot of different community issues. Their newspaper provides opportunities for local businesses to advertise. There's always articles with regards to our schools and what's going on in our community. And the best thing about their newspaper is that they don't turn anybody away, And if you read the newspaper, it says it right in there, that they're looking for articles from people to tell them what's going on in the community. One of the things that I think is very important for a community is how we connect and stay together. And in going through my list of folks that I should take a look at to receive this award, they stood out as being folks that are that connection. And I'm very proud and privileged to give them coin number 71 to Liz and Greg Goldthorpe. You guys want here's a couple of words, please.
Well, this is such an honor and so unexpected, really. We do what we do. We love it. We just, like it was said before about the police officer, I think, that he just loves what he does, and it's a love that we do. We've been doing this for about 23 years now, and we couldn't think of anything else to do. It makes it so easy when you enjoy it, and we love our community, and we love the people, and we love to serve, and it just makes it just too easy. We love it, and we appreciate this, and we hope that we continue to serve for many more years. And thank you so much for this wonderful honor.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
And I'll just say, after being married for almost 24 years and working together side by side for 23 years, our minds are almost exactly the same by now. And so I'll just say ditto to everything she said, and thank you very much.
You're a very good husband.
And a very happy one.
Great, thank you.
So much.
We'll move now to Supervisor Wygant, who I think just has a few comments today.
Yeah, I am giving my commemorative coins to the dynamic duo from Rockland, Kathy Lund, Peter Hill, Kathy, who is retired from the council, and Peter, who is retiring. Unfortunately, Kathy has a medical issue which is preventing her from being here today, and Peter chose not to come until they could be together. So if the board will indulge me sometime later soon, we'll do that.
We're always willing to indulge you, Robert. All right, we will move to District 3 and Supervisor Holmes.
Thank you, Chair Montgomery. The lady that I'm going to present my award to is no stranger to the Placer County Board of Supervisors, June Stewart. June, would you please come to the lectern? June has been a long time Placer County 4-H leader. She presents us with outstanding youth every year that tells us the programs that they've been in, and also gives us our honorary 4-H leader pins. She was born on a family cattle ranch in Jackson County near Ashland, Oregon, where she participated in many of the ranch operations at a very early age. The values she learned of working the land and strong family ties developed into a lifelong commitment that has carried through her entire life. She and her husband Jim raised 8 children, 4 sons, 4 daughters, all very active in volunteer leadership roles in youth organizations, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Campfire Girls, school and church youth groups, and of course, 4-H. All of her sons achieved the Eagle Scout rank. All her children were involved in 4-H, and some even going on to leadership opportunities at the national level. She has attended the Placer County 4-H summer camp week each year for the past 28 years and currently manages the camp facility. She loves being there with nearly 150 youth and 20 adult leaders. After working about 15 years as a volunteer 4-H leader, she was asked by Sharon Jung, Placer, Nevada Youth Development Advisor, if she would help manage the 4-H program. June enthusiastically accepted the opportunity. 2 years later, the University of California Cooperative Extension created the position of 4-H program representative the job that June was actually doing. She has been on the UC Cooperative Extension staff in this position for now over 22 years. 4-H program representatives help volunteer adults disseminate research-based materials in the hands of youth and their families. This was a mission when the 4-H program was developed nationally over 100 years ago, first creating corn and canning clubs. 4-H is a family affair where the entire family becomes involved and supports the youth while learning together. It is a continuing education where learning new things is foremost. Another vital aspect of the UC Cooperative Extension education is the outreach program, one that June developed and loved is the embryology program that reaches over 6,500 students each year. June has developed curriculum, annually holds teacher training programs, and manages over 135 incubators, plus equipment loaned to classrooms and families for this exciting enrichment program of experiencing the development of a life of a baby chick in just 3 weeks' time. As you can see, June's leadership shows that she's passionate about the 4-H program. It has been a way of life, and she rejoices with each 4-H'er's growth and accomplishments. She extends a special thanks to all who have assisted the youth and volunteered in the 4-H program. June, I just want to extend a special thanks to you for your involvement in the 4-H program. Through your guidance and commitment, you have helped so many of our youth to grow to their potential, increase their confidence, and think about innovative ways to help society, thereby helping them to prepare to become better adults. You have truly succeeded in what the 4-H motto says, to make the best better. It's my great honor to present you with this commemorative coin.
Thank you.
Is there an opportunity to say a few words?
Thank you.
Introduce your family?
Yes, I'd love to.
I would like this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude for this wonderful recognition. I really, really appreciate it. I would like to introduce my county director, Roger Ingram. And one of my daughters and her daughters. This is Audrey Clark and her 3 daughters, and they're all 4-H'ers. And Audrey's been a community leader for a bilingual 4-H club in Lincoln for 7 years. And thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, June. Moving on to the 4th District, Supervisor Euler.
Sandy, would you please come up? I know how much you enjoy that. It gives me great pleasure this morning to recognize the gal who should probably have a tiara and a banner that reads Ms. Granite Bay. Sandy, and I want to make this presentation in the appropriate context. I think it's important for people to understand. When Sandy and I first met back in 1993, I had just been elected to the Board of Supervisors, and Sandy and her dearly departed husband were very active in the Granite Bay Community Association. Her husband was actually president of the Community Association at the time. And in January of '93, after being elected in a pretty hotly contested campaign against the incumbent, I met with the Community Association, and I sat there as we went around the room at Placer Savings Bank in Granite Bay, and I had each of the directors tell me what I was and was not going to do as the supervisor for that area. And at the conclusion of them going around the table, I sat there for a moment, and I turned and I looked over at Sandy's husband and then at the rest of them, and I said, I think you guys don't understand something. We had the election, and your candidate lost. And so it's in that context, you recall that, Sandy? It's in that context that this morning I really have a wonderful opportunity to recognize somebody who has helped shape Granite Bay into what it is today. Sandy and her husband came to Placer County in 1977, before there was a Granite Bay, when we had Roseville and Loomis, and really we had the bait and tackle shop that was the Granite Bay Bait and Tackle Shop, and that was pretty much the only thing that had the name of Granite Bay on it, and of course the state park at Granite Bay. Sandy has one son and a daughter and a grandson. Sandy immediately became active in the community. In 1987, she became a founding member of the Granite Bay Community Association as Loomis Incorporated, and the remaining area that had been in the Loomis Basin Community Plan then needed to form its own community plan. And the Granite Bay Community Association came together at the time in order to begin creating the framework for the Granite Bay Community Plan. Sandy was active with that effort, all 13 meetings at the Planning Commission and the 2 meetings before the Board of Supervisors. It was actually Sandy and her group that were instrumental in getting the area named Granite Bay and having that moniker hung on the community plan that was then adopted by this board in 1989. Over the years, Sandy has published a newsletter that she sends out to folks in the Granite Bay community area called the Granite Bay Alert. She's published over 300 alerts, keeping neighbors up to date on the goings-on here at the Board of Supervisors and other things happening in the community with the Fire Board and the Water District. Sandy was on the subcommittee of the Granite Bay Municipal Advisory Council for the community plan update in 2012. Didn't miss a single meeting as we went through that process. In 1994, she was on the Friends of the Library Committee that brought the library to its current location on Douglas Boulevard. And in fact, Sandy was instrumental in getting part of Auburn, Folsom, and Douglas Boulevard actually shut down as the books were paraded from the temporary housing up where Ace and Bill's Donuts are up there in the old Jumbo Center, we still refer to it as. The books were actually marched down Auburn, Folsom, and Douglas to the new location where the library is today. Sandy has served on the MAC Parks Subcommittee and helped to establish the Ron Feist Park that we have today and enjoy today. She was also on the MAC Safety Subcommittee. She served 2 terms on the Placer County Grand Jury. She's been a volunteer at the Granite Bay Sheriff's Substation. And one thing I didn't know about you is a past president and a 30-year member of the Model A Ford Club in Auburn. As an active member of the community, Sandy regularly attends South Placer Fire Board meetings, San Juan Water meetings, and is currently serving as the president of the Carolinda Homeowners Association. You know, Sandy, the real reason I wanted to recognize you is just once I wanted to know what it felt like to have you at the podium and not argue with me. Sandy, I think it's safe to say that there's probably no one that has had a greater impact on the development of our Granite Bay community, and I thank you for your dedication to our community. I'm sorry, at this point you may rebut or
argue with him.
Actually, I'm speechless.
Won't get you very far. Okay, we all good here? and this is for that. And thank you very much for your commitment. Appreciate it. Microphone's yours.
I'm speechless. I was amazed at all those nice things. I didn't realize I had been so busy. But I really do appreciate the honor, and I'm just really thankful that my family could be here with me this morning. That means a lot to me. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. All right, so now it's my turn. The 5th District, as all of you probably know, is very large, and so this year I'm awarding 2 coins, one to a gentleman on the west side of the 5th District and one to a fabulous woman who is so important to the east side of the district. I'm going to start with David Wilty, who is my honoree. David, would you come forward, please? So David Wilty is an Applegate resident with a long, outstanding track record of community service and activism. He's a member of several local advisory bodies, and he helped found a grassroots organization that's making real progress in its efforts to make the Sierra foothills more senior-friendly. David has a long, distinguished career as a planner and a planning consultant in both the public and the private sector, including owning his own consulting business from 1986 to 1995. David's long track record of community involvement here in Placer County includes service on the Placer County Planning Commission from 1989 to 91, the Placer County Board of Zoning Appeals from 1989 to 1990, and he was a member of the California County Planning Commissioners Association from 1989 to 1991. My relationship with David has largely been through his position as a member of the WACMAC, the Weimar Applegate Colfax Municipal Advisory Council. He has been on that board since 2006, and he also serves as the 5th District representative on the Older Adults Advisory Commission and currently serves on the Seniors First Board of Directors. As a member of the WACMAC Advisory Council, he helped form the Senior Living Group of the Sierra Foothills. This is a grassroots group that he and others have really pulled together that's committed to making the foothills more senior-friendly. As our population continues to age in place, David and others identified some real unmet needs that we frankly needed to grapple with, and he's really been the lead on this. The group brings together local seniors and service providers to identify and meet community needs in cooperation with other organizations. Their target area includes Weimar, Applegate, Colfax, Alta, Dutch Flat, Gold Run, and actually the Nevada County community of Chicago Park, which is fairly closely aligned with the Colfax area. The group has achieved many early successes, including helping improve public transportation in the Alta, Dutch Flat, Gold Run areas, gaining a better understanding of the plight of senior and disabled homeless residents, helping raise funds for the Seniors First Meals on Wheels and Senior Cafe program, connecting with previously isolated seniors in a local Section 8 housing project, and preparing plans for improving pedestrian and open space access throughout the West Slope so that those uses can be incorporated into the daily life of seniors and all others in the county more easily. He has upcoming projects that focus on such goals as developing alternative long-term care options, providing better links between senior volunteers and the service groups who serve them, improving opportunities for socialization, continuing education, travel, societal involvement, and enrichment. Improving support for seniors with home improvement and property maintenance needs, and strengthening communications and coordination between seniors and the broader community. David, as you can see, has a lot on his plate. He manages it all with a smile. But he is a very firm individual. He holds all our feet to the fire. He really makes sure that when we make commitments, we follow through on them. But the thing that I think is most important is David holds his own feet to the fire in that very same way. He is absolutely committed to his community. He's a pleasure to work with. He can be a bit of a curmudgeon, which I appreciate because I don't always want to hear the echo chamber telling me, what a great job I'm doing or the county's doing. David is very upfront, truthful, and straightforward, and I love that about him. So it is my just absolute pleasure today to thank David for all these efforts on behalf of Placer County, on behalf of the seniors and the others in his community, and really on behalf of everybody in Weimar, Applegate, Colfax, Dutch Flat, and beyond. It's my absolute pleasure to present coin number 76 today to David Wilty. Hi, curmudgeon. Would you like to say some words?
I certainly would.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am truly humbled by this honor, and I want to say that it's simply a pleasure to work with the many people that are devoted to concerns of seniors and the disabled here in our county. As we witness the coming of the baby boom, turning older, the challenges are many in the future. But I do feel that with a large army of volunteers and concerned folks, both in government and private enterprise and the nonprofit community here in our county, that we're well equipped to make senior living as enriching and satisfying as humanly possible here in Placer County. And I hope to continue to work with you folks and with the senior community in much more depth in the future. One thing I think we need to keep in mind, I think we do have an opportunity in this county to sort of carve out our own future for seniors. It's our lives, and rather than sitting around waiting for somebody from Washington or Sacramento to tell us what to do and how to do it, I think we do have an opportunity to innovate in ways that perhaps other counties and states don't have. And I hope that we seize this opportunity and go with it. Thank you very much for this distinct honor. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
My second coin today goes to just a wonderful woman and an amazing human being, Mayumi Eligado, if you'd please come forward. Mayumi is probably not a name that many of you recognize, but she is the owner, editor, and publisher of Moonshine Inc. newspaper, which is published in the eastern end of Placer County, serves Placer County, Nevada County, and the town of Truckee. They just had their 10th year anniversary, and congratulations on that. That is quite a feat. And one of the things about Moonshine Inc. that has been particularly important in eastern Placer County is that it's bilingual. We have a large Spanish-speaking population in the east end of the county that was largely underserved by our existing newspaper at the time, and Moonshine Inc. saw a role to step into that would serve the whole community, the greater community, and that was really Mayumi's vision. She is absolutely inspirational to those of us who know her. She is charming, she is funny, she is a wonderful partner, she is a great mom. She's incredibly good at what she does. Her staff adore her, and on that note, I'm going to read here something that one of your staffers sent me, because I think it just perfectly encapsulates your role and how important you've been to our community. This reporter writes, "This is a hard one. I don't really know her background or her time before Moonshine, but I do know she is Moonshine's fearless leader. She keeps a group of writers, photographers, and graphic designers together and inspires us to produce our best work month after month. Her official title is publisher, but she is really so much more. Seller of ads, bookkeeping, editorial manager-in-chief, chief cheerleader, graphic designer, and extinguisher of fires. She works tirelessly to make this all happen every month, and this is published monthly and is online. She is the core of Moonshine, and without her, this amazing community newspaper would not exist. Her goal, first and foremost, is quality journalism, followed by a mission to serve the community and keep it informed and intelligent. I can think of no better person who deserves this award. And I agree entirely with those words. Mayumi, I'm so pleased to present you with lucky coin number 77. Thank you for your service. Great job, girl. I'm crying, I'm sorry. Please say some words for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Montgomery. That was wonderful. First, I want to take the opportunity to express my deep, heartfelt thanks to everybody on the dais and the woman in front for your dedication to public service. It really is an important job, and you guys do it well. I am humbled and grateful for this honor. It's incredible to be recognized, and I also am just grateful for this encouragement to continue our great work. And thirdly, I'd like to say that two newspaper publishers getting honored in one day, that gives me fortitude and warms my heart. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and Supervisor Duran and I did not compare notes and pick newspapers to honor, but I agree with Mayumi. That's it's very heartwarming to see that the traditional role of newspapers continues to be strong in our district, and in fact is growing. So, my great pleasure. Thanks to all of you today for coming, those who received the awards, family, friends who are here to support them. Without all of you, they couldn't do it, and we couldn't do it, and my sincere thanks to all of you. All right, at this time I'm going to allow a minute or two for people to file out and maybe get some pictures out front with each other. And we will move then to our 9:20 timed item. We're a little behind schedule, but that's okay. This is a commendation being presented by Supervisor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a commendation for Kevin Eckert, who's busy chatting with
Pretty girl.
once again,
Kevin.
this is a commendation.
Kevin, pay attention. We're starting without you.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin, we're going to present you with a commendation. I was going to give you a coin, but we're running a little low. And I
He's already
figured
got
that
They're hotly desired items, I understand.
this will sit
Well-deserved.
sit better on your wall of achievement, I think. So if you'll allow me, I will proudly read this for you. In the matter of a commendation recognizing Kevin Eckert for his service to the Placer County Assessment Appeals Board. Whereas on May 18th, 1993, the Board of Supervisors adopted Ordinance 4502B, I'm sure you remember that,
That was there.
amending Chapter 2, establishing a Placer County Assessment Appeals Board as approved in concept, April 20th, 1993. And whereas on July 13th, the Board of Supervisors approved the appointment of Kevin Eckert to the Assessment Appeals Board representing District 5, with reappointments as follows. September 17th, 1996, September 7th, 1999, August 20th, 2002, November 8th, 2005, and October 20th, 2009. Whereas Kevin helped draft and implement the Assessment Appeals Board local rules established January 1st, 2006, and amended August 18th, 2009, and February 8th, 2011. I guess you just couldn't leave them alone. Whereas
Have to change with the environment.
Oh, okay. Whereas during Kevin Eckert's service on the Assessment Appeals Board, there have been 214 hearings. And whereas Kevin has served as a chairman of the Assessment Appeals Board since September 11th, 2000, and whereas the Placer County Clerk of the Board office has greatly enjoyed working with Mr. Eckert, he has conducted meetings in a professional, courteous, and orderly manner. And whereas Mr. Eckert has demonstrated his respect for the assessment appeals process by helping applicants unfamiliar with the process present their case and by attending meetings on a moment's notice when a fellow board member is unavailable. And whereas the clerk's office greatly appreciates his quickness to respond to their questions and cannot find the words to express their undying gratitude for his service to the Assessment Appeals Board. Therefore, let it be known that the Placer County Board of Supervisors would like to commend Kevin Eckert for his dedicated service to Placer County and the Assessment Appeals Board. We wish him success and happiness in the future. Congratulations. Now is your opportunity to say a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm deeply touched by this commendation, and especially I am deeply touched by the kind sentiment expressed by the clerk's office. Receiving this commendation, I'd like to make some commendations of my own. I'd like to commend the Board of Supervisors for making such top-rate appointments to the current Assessment Appeals Board. It's very, very important business that they do. It's the interaction of the public with government, and you have put your best foot forward, I think, with the current panel. I'd like to thank the Executive's Office for the support they give us with Teresa Leonard. She is very good and very helpful. I'd like to thank County Counsel's Office because with the current representative of the Assessor's Office, County Counsel Brian Worth is an excellent counsel for these issues that do crop up before the Board of Supervisors, before the Assessment Appeals Board. And especially I'd like to thank the clerks of the Assessment Appeals Board, Gina and Melinda. You have to understand that in any kind of, what we have now because of the local laws that have been amended so many times, we have sort of like an administrative law court. And the way courts run is not by anyone who sits as the hearing officer, it's run by the clerks. And the accuracy and the flow of the cases that come before the Board of Supervisors is a direct result of the clerks. And they have done an excellent job, and I'm sure will continue to do so. Also like to recognize Harry Aho, who represents the 5th District. He is here today. So I think you can be pleased with the current status of the board. Again, thank you very much for this commendation. I'm deeply touched.
Did you?
Oh, and Supervisor Holmes would be deeply disappointed if I didn't say I found the last 19 years very appealing.
I just wondered if you wanted to recognize the fellow that's been appointed to take your place.
I haven't met him, Supervisor Holmes, but it would be great to meet him now.
Oh, he's right there. Ben Herb.
Ben, how do you do? Congratulations on your appointment. Yes, I've heard of his background and his resume, and understand it's keeping with my observation of being a top-rate appointment to the Assessment Appeals Board.
Supervisor Euler?
I want to thank you. Having voted to appoint you in the first place way back when, Just for historical context, the creation of the Assessment Appeals Board was one of those things that our board did in response to the passage of Measure A. And at the time, it was Supervisor Ferreira that had identified this as a good opportunity to create a separate board. Our Board of Supervisors used to sit as the Assessment Appeals Board, and those were the board meetings that I dreaded the most. And so I was only too happy to work with Supervisor Ferrer and support his effort to create this separate board, and I just couldn't be more pleased with how well it has worked out over the years. I think you guys have done an outstanding job in a position that it's a tough position to be in. The kinds of issues that you struggle with, I don't envy you the decisions that you make, but I constantly get very good feedback about the deliberative process that goes on that you have engaged in. And so having been guilty of assisting and sticking you on there in the first place 19 years ago, just wanted to say thank you for your long service on that.
I appreciate the sentiment, Supervisor Euler. Also, I'll point out to you that your appointee, Robert Enos, will be the new co-chairman of the board, and I've been in contact with him, exchanging sort of recipes and war stories, so he's gearing up for his first debut, I think is in the beginning of December.
Great. Thank you.
Kevin, I have not had the good fortune to work with you for 19 years, but I have had the good fortune to work with you for about the past 4 now. And I want to echo Supervisor Euler's words. What I hear from people who have been in front of the Assessment Appeals Board, even if they did not get the outcome that they were looking for, they largely have been very complimentary as to how the process operated, how it was run, the respect with which they were treated. And, you know, it's not often that people who get an outcome that they weren't hoping for are reasonably happy with the process. But under your leadership, that really has been the situation. Obviously, there are exceptions to that rule, and I'm sure we've discussed a few of them. But it's noted in here that you've had 214 hearings. Any idea, roughly, the number of individual appeals over that time that you've heard?
I'll defer to the clerks on that. The average of, 2,500 to 3,000 cases a year?
So 19 years at about 3,000 cases. That's a lot.
3,000 to 4,000 would be a good number.
Yeah.
Boy, is my ear sore.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how you had time to do anything else, but I really do want to thank you for all your service. And, you know.
Well, the good news is that you have a good composition on the board as it stands now. You have real estate brokers who understand how marketing works, and those are great when you're weighing the evidence on the market data. You have appraisers that understand the language at the assessor's office. And by the way, I would like to commend the assessor's office as well, because in the process, they, although are adversarial, their demeanor before the public is very, very good, and makes you pleased to see that they take such care and make such effort to resolve these cases before they do get to hearing. There's nothing better for a hearing officer than, and Supervisor Duran would agree with that, for a hearing officer to come in and they say, we've settled the case. And, oh, okay, that's great. And this is, a lot of this is due to the assessor's office, the assessor staff. Assessor Kristen Spears is attentive, and her staff is well supervised, and her appraisers are well trained. So it's all in all, it's a very good process that you have going.
Well, we will miss you on the board, but we will certainly see you around town at the very many functions that you manage to attend in all your spare time. Thank you so much for your service. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you again.
Okay, we will move to our, I would have liked to have known what that comment was. We will move to our 9:30 timed item. Gail Garbolino Mojica will be giving us our annual report on the Williams schools in Placer County. Gail, welcome.
Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm going to do my best to get you back on schedule, so this will not be a lengthy report, but it's up to you if you have any questions that I can answer afterwards. I'm here with my annual report on the Williams schools in Placer County. Williams was a result of a lawsuit that was filed by the ACLU in the year 2000 claiming that underserved students were not receiving the type of education that other children were receiving, and hence the settlement created the Williams requirement for the county superintendent to subject additional schools that are considered Williams schools to additional scrutiny and oversight. The schools that are in decile 1, 2, and 3 on the 2009 Academic Performance Index are identified as Williams schools. It's important to note that I always like to put out, if you enjoy statistics or are familiar with statistics, this is based on norm curve equivalence, not national percentile rank. So with a norm curve equivalent, you will have, over a band of 1,000 schools, you will have equal number. You'll have 100 schools that are in decile 1, just like you'll have 100 schools in decile 10. You'll have 100 schools in decile 2, just like you'll have 100 schools in decile 9. So you will always have schools that are in decile 1, 2, and 3 in the state of California because it's based upon the norm curved equivalence. Here in Placer County, we're lucky. Out of the 137 schools that we operate, we only have 2 decile schools, 2 decile 3 schools, so they're the highest of the Williams school. And I'm going to just give you some information on them in the next few seconds here. Basically, in the first 4 weeks of schools, my staff and I go into these 2 schools and we subject the students and the schools to additional oversight in the areas of instructional materials, making sure that each student has standard-based aligned instructional materials at school that they are able to access, that they have clean and safe conditions. Bathrooms are clean. That actually means that toilets have to be flushed when we walk in, so that's something that's just part of the perk of this job, I guess, going in and making sure that the boys' bathroom is flushed. Accuracy of the data on the SARC, that's a school accountability report card, and making sure that there are no teacher misassignments, meaning that if a teacher has English language learners in her class, that she is properly credentialed to teach those students as well. So we have 2 Williams schools. They are decile 3 schools in the Roseville City School District. Kirby Elementary School and Woodbridge Fundamental School are our 2 Williams schools. I added their API score just to give you an idea that they are very high-performing schools. In the API, which is the Academic Performance Index, which is the state accountability measure for public schools in the state, each school is given a range between 100 and 1,000. With the goal being 800. If you're at 800, the state basically says you're a highly efficient, highly productive school. As you can see, Kirby Elementary School has an API score of 802, and Woodbridge is 753. So both provide a high quality of education there. At Kirby, we found that there were sufficient instructional materials and that their school was in good repair and clean, that there was accurate information, and that there was no teacher misassignments, and the same for Woodbridge Elementary School. So with that, these schools are identified as Williams schools for 3 years. They were identified in 2009. We're going to be, state of California will be rebenching the Williams schools this spring. So we will probably more than likely be back here next year with different schools. But maybe we won't have any. That would be very nice. So with that, I will entertain any questions that the members of the Board of Supervisors may have.
I see none. That was very comprehensive.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you, as always. Thank you. All right, we'll move to our 9:45 item. This is County Clerk elections. We'll be conducting a public hearing regarding fees. You don't look like Lisa Kramer or Gloria Coots.
No, I don't, thankfully. But we do have them here, bound and gagged in the back. I'm Ryan Ronco with the Clerk Recorder Elections Office. On October 23rd, you may remember that I appeared before your board up at your Tahoe meeting. I was the one in the tie. And we opened public hearing on our new fee ordinance at that time. Today I'm asking for you, after some public comment and any questions that you might have, to close that public hearing and hopefully approve our updated fee ordinance. And like we mentioned, Gloria Coots and Lisa Kramer are also here with me to answer any questions you have.
I see no questions.
Any public comment?
Yep, just making sure there's no questions here with the board. Any public comment on this item? This is a public hearing. This is your opportunity for public comment. All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public comments and bring this back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board? Is this a roll call or? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right. We really appreciate it. We will now move to department item number 7, County Executive, North Lake Tahoe Resort Association contract. Jennifer Merchant, somewhere? Do we have Jennifer here?
She was around a bit ago.
She was just here.
Holly, is Jennifer Merchant?
Here she is,
There she is.
moving as quickly as she can on her bad leg.
Sorry about that. Had to get through the crowd in the hallway there. Well, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm here this morning to present to you our recommendation regarding the North Lake Tahoe Resort Association contract. Before you for consideration today is a contract in the amount of $5,150,748 in transient occupancy tax funds to promote tourism, implement visitor-serving capital projects, and transit operations in eastern Placer County. The recommended contract amount will fund administrative costs, direct marketing, program research, visitor information, transit services, and various capital project planning and development. The budget is just under $300,000 less than the previous fiscal year due to lower Tahoe TOT collections during last year's winter quarter, although it is just about flat to the previous fiscal year, 2010-11. In order to provide the agreed-upon services, the contract budget does allocate funding to 3 resource categories: $2.5 million roughly for marketing, $1.1 for visitor support and transportation, and $1.5 million for capital improvements. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on the proposed contract and recommendation.
I see no questions from the board. We do have representatives from the Resort Association here. Did either of you want to come forward and address this?
Madam Chair and Board of Supervisors, I just want to say thank you. We hope to continue a very strong partnership again this year, as we have. I think that we have one of probably the best boards that we could possibly put together in North Lake Tahoe to help advise you on how to do improvements in transportation in our area. I think we've got a good team that are helping us to put together a fine promotion of the area, and even with less money, we hope to be able to still drive TOT tax to Placer County. We need to work a little bit on the process of the contract, and we hope to do that over the course of this next year. I think we already have some thoughts in place on that so that we can hopefully have it done a little bit earlier timing than it is this year. But overall, I look forward to working with you, aligning with you, and hopefully achieving all the things that you would like to see us do in North Lake Tahoe. And I hope to be before you in January to give you a little preview of our very ambitious goals that we have for the next year. Thank you.
Sandy, thank you for coming all this way, and I really want to second your concerns about timeliness. And I know that in the new contract there are some commitments to some dates, both on the county's part and on the Resort Association's part, that will help us get through the process in a more productive and efficient process. I think reading over the contract, great reading, by the way, it's probably more gripping than a Stephen King novel. I saw some things in there that I really think are noteworthy, including the county's commitment over time to reduce some of the burdens that the Resort Association Board is not particularly happy with in terms of county services. And so I think it's important to note that that agreement is in there and that it really is the intention of the county over time to reduce or eliminate some of those specific line items that really are of importance to the Resort Association. Ron Parson made me promise to ask this, so I'm going to. Is the board in support of this? I'm assuming they are, since it's in front of us as a contract, but is your board in support of this contract?
Yes, they voted to support it at our last meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then my last comment on this is just as relates to capital projects and some of the capital projects that are proposed. I note that one of them is some funding consideration for the Olympic Heritage Museum planning process. I have had a number of meetings with the folks proposing this. There's been a number of public meetings, and I have some real concerns about their vision for where that facility should go specifically. I know that some of those concerns are shared by many of the departments who would be involved in that here at the county, and so I think it's going to be very important that we all sit down and have those conversations and make sure that the vision for the planning process aligns with Placer County's needs as well. So
Absolutely.
just as a
I'll
heads
do
up.
that.
Thank you. Any other comments from any board members on this?
And I just wanted to clarify, we are not unhappy with the county's services. We just don't want to have to pay for them. That's all.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood.
Love the county's services.
Ron, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Okay. Anything else, Sandy?
No, that's it.
Okay, I see
Thank
no
you.
questions. Jennifer, did you want to add anything?
Nothing to add.
All right. Any member of the audience want to comment on this item? All right. Seeing none, I will bring this back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Much appreciated. We will move to our 10 o'clock timed item. This is a county executive item, Western Placer County Land Use. Allison Carlos presenting.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairman, board members. Allison Carlos with the County Executive Office. I will be
Talking about fundamental schools.
That's
apparently.
not it. I'll be introducing this item. Along with me, though, I'd like to acknowledge that there are a number of land development departments who are here in case you should have some questions along the way or at any appropriate time. That's still not our item. Greg. To get started, I would like to say that what we'd like to do today is present an overview of growth in West Placer County. That hasn't been done for your board since the mid-2000, and that was predominantly relating to services and facilities. Since then, there have been a few new board members, and we thought it would be a good time to have this overview. Between 2000 and 2005 and thank you. Today, numerous projects have received their entitlements in the unincorporated area, and as the economy is inching forward, we have a number of real estate developers who are very much interested in proceeding with implementation, and a number of issues are arising that we would like to discuss with your board. So part of this item also is to propose a schedule for workshops with you over the next 3 months so that we might be able to discuss some of those issues with you. For some geographical context, what we're looking at, and we're coining this as the West Placer Study Area. You're probably familiar with the boundaries of this map as it's the same as the Placer County Conservation Plan. Essentially, the yellow areas are the unincorporated Placer County, and obviously this area has 5 of the cities of Auburn, Loomis, Rockland, Lincoln, and Roseville. What this map represents is the same boundary line, the same West Placer Study Area in the context of the 1994 General Plan, and the zoning associated. As you know, in this area, as with the rest of the county, development is predominantly guided by general plan, community plan, and specific plans. The area is yellow is predominantly zoned open space and agricultural with 10 to 80 acre minimum zoning, and the brown area, rural residential with 1 to 10 acre minimum zoning. The blue areas are obviously the incorporated areas, and what's also overlain on here are the currently entitled specific plans. And the reason for that being is that the specific plans, as approved, identify zoning. The area is also traversed with major roadways of Highway 65 and I-80. We want to pinpoint a more specific area that we wanted to discuss today when we're calling that the West Placer Planning Area. Now, it's encircled, but that's not a precise delineation. It's more just to focus you to that most southwesterly portion of the county. Now, there are numerous community plans throughout the overall West Placer study area, the larger area, Granite Bay, Loomis, so forth. There's even one in the West Placer planning area, the Dry Creek Community Plan. But what's also true is that other areas of the unincorporated portions of the planning area do not have the benefit of some community plan that has been approved by your board that would increase the amount of community-based planning that would have occurred. So the area has been planned with the use of the mechanism of specific plans, and not always exactly next to each other, and not with proposals for annexation. This next slide and the series of slides to follow are points in time looking at what's occurred in the West Placer planning area over the last few years. This particular spotlight area into the West Placer planning area is 1994 general plan again, and what was being considered at that time. The general plan further affirmed the intentions of growth in the Southwest Placer area. That was in part done with the designation of the future study area, that area in blue, which discussed the urban-suburban growth that was anticipated to occur to the westerly direction, the interest for job housing balance, and other practical land use principles. Additional transportation planning was in place with the planned Placer Parkway early alignment. And let's see if I can, I don't know quite, oh, okay, that wasn't it. Okay, I don't know how to put a point on it. Okay. Anyway, that blue line is the alignment at that point in time. Also within the study area was the MOU area for the city of Roseville. That's the crosshatched area. And that essentially was to address service and infrastructure as proposals would come forward as potential annexations. We also had up on the right-hand corner the green area of the Bickford Ranch project discussed in 1994, which was a 1,900-unit subdivision, and the West Placer specific plan area, which was intended to be a mixed-use 14,000-unit subdivision. We always have the Sunset Industrial area on this map just because it's an important point, and it was discussed in the general plan and then subsequently in the 1997 community plan, which I'll discuss in a minute. Rolling forward to 2005, we experienced some explosive growth, one of the fastest growing areas in the state. Specific project proposals were emerging at that point in time. And what that was specifically is we had applications in for the Placer Ranch specific plan, which was a 6,500-ish unit subdivision within the Sunset Industrial area with over 9 million square feet of commercial, and a public university of 25,000 students. We had Regional University, a second private university with 4,600 residential units proposed. When we were looking at Placer Vineyards, a 14,000 residential mixed-use project. Also in February 2005, Riolo Vineyards application was made, a 933-unit subdivision. Also what was occurring is there were consideration for the Placer Parkway alignment, so there was a forwarding of the infrastructure for roadways in 2005, as well as the MOU areas adjacent to Roseville were specific proposals of Sierra Vista and Creekview at this point. That combined with what had been assumed into the city limits for Roseville, the West Roseville specific plan, was about 16,000 additional units. So to put a fine point on it, the unincorporated area at this point in time was looking at 25,000 new residential units and 2 major university sites. Moving forward to today, we now have a confirmed Placer Parkway alignment. We have the Roseville MOU annexations, Sierra Vista and Creekview negotiated. Sierra Vista's already been fully annexed into the city limits. Regional University is now an entitled project, Placer Vineyards, as well as Riolo Vineyards. Placer Ranch did not proceed. We thought it would be interesting. We haven't talked much about Lincoln in particular, but we thought it would be interesting to go through a couple of slides that has a graphic demonstration, aerial photographs of what this urbanization looks like at the Lincoln interface and at the Roseville interface over an 18-year period of time. This is the 12 Bridges interface area and Lincoln Crossing with unincorporated Placer County, just a snapshot of the 2 points in time. And then we have something similarly for Roseville, which is the Del Webb and West Placer specific plan area moving westerly. One of the things I mentioned earlier was the Sunset Industrial Area, and this was mentioned in the general plan, but in 1997 there was a specific community plan. And also prior to even the general plan, this area has been discussed as preservation for high-paying jobs within the region, for job housing balance, and for being an economic engine for the county. What I wanted to identify was in 1997 in the community plan, there were a couple of key principles that were put in place to protect the interests of the county in this regard, and that was to promote for the infrastructure planning and development within the Sunset Industrial Area to attract business, was to minimize the encroachment of residential uses upon the industrial area, and also to pull back the sphere of influences of the cities, sphere of influence being the delineation of those areas that would have probable incorporation and service delivery from a particular jurisdiction. Due to the efforts of your board today, the sphere of influences have been pulled back from the SIA to keep that land use control within the county. Up until this point, I've talked about the growth and how it looked as it was occurring. And now I'd like to reflect in this chart. What we have is the actual growth that occurred, and now we're speaking again about the larger study area, the growth that has historically occurred over the last 30 years, and then what has been projected going forward through 2060. So our horizon year is 2060. Now this data was prepared with the planning department and consultants, and it is consistent with what we see out of the Sacramento Council, Area Council of Governments. So there is some linkage here with, as what's been said, with SACOG, as well as the actual data from the Department of Finance. What we basically see is through the long term, growth will continue at a generalized pace similar to what we've experienced in the past. What is clear is then you can see it between 2000 and 2010, the significant growth rate that was occurring within the cities, I think about 2,500 units per year, and that it levels off a little bit. Obviously, the population will continue to be predominantly within the city area. Also, the green band is the remainder of the unincorporated Placer County that's not within the West Placer planning area. What we see is a generally consistent rate of growth in the long term, as with past years. But with the West Placer planning area, we see a significant increase in growth that mimics what was occurring between 1980 and 2010 for the cities. So we see that the West Placer planning area, strategic planning area for urban growth, is a major population driver within the 2060 2060 horizon.
And Allison, before you move off that slide, what is that total population figure in 2060?
A little over 600,000, so I should make the point that between 2010 and the 2060 horizon, the population about doubles for the entire study area.
Okay, thank you.
So growth planning has been a long and historical practice in the county for the West Placer area in terms of land use and in terms of the job housing balance, infrastructure and services, and sustainability and funding. As we go forward, knowing that there is interest to bring greater clarification on how that should occur, staff is going to present a proposal for a series of workshops where we would go into a little more detail on each of these issues for your consideration as projects are interested in implementing. To that point, what staff is proposing is 3 additional workshops, one in January to discuss historical policy and how policy has been implemented within the entitled unincorporated projects. In February, to discuss facilities and services and specifically the financing associated with the entitled projects. And then on March, to provide policy options and recommendations for your board given some of the emerging issues. So with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, I or the additional departments would be happy to answer them.
I don't see any lights lighting up. I did have just one comment on it. When we get to the February presentation on facilities and services, I think it would be important in the discussion of water to have our partners at PCWA and NID participate in that discussion with us and be present in case we have any questions as to that intersection. Any other questions or comments from the board? Supervisor Euler.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for bringing this item forward. I recall as we sat here back in 2007 and had the conversations around vineyards, and then again in 2008 and had the conversation around the university project, at least one board member provided admonition that we go back and we look at these service costs and the ongoing annual costs to the future homeowners there. And so I'm glad we're really digging into this. I know that there have been a number of conversations that CEO's office has had with the business community over the past few years, and I know that those have increased not only in frequency, but I believe also in the quality of the discussion that is now being had as it relates to specific costs and the needs driving those costs. And it would be my hope that by the time we reach that March 2013, 6 years after we approved the vineyards, the March 2013 meeting, that we as a board are able to sit here and deal with some real world scenarios, that we're able to deal with some actual and provide direction in terms of levels of service that we think it's appropriate to provide out there, and have an understanding of what that means to us from a cost driver standpoint. I'd really like us to be able to dig in to some tangible dollars and numbers and know what that's going to mean for our future residents, rather than simply reaching that point and then getting into those numbers. So hopefully that's the air in the room when we're meeting with the business community and having those conversations.
Supervisor Duran.
Yes, Allison, thank you very much for your presentation. I just had a couple of comments. I just wanted to make sure, in addition to the water folks, that the transportation folks have an opportunity to take a look at what we're doing and provide their input, as well as much input that we can get from the stakeholders in this discussion. So.
Allison, again, thank you. My one last comment would be just making sure that we do really comprehensive analysis of the needs for fire and emergency response. As we all know, we've been faced with some challenges in some of the other areas in the county, and I really want to make sure that we really do the appropriate level of analysis to determine what's going to be required from any new and even current residents in the west end of the county to make sure that when you call 911, someone shows up. Any other questions or comments from the board? Any member of the public want to comment on this or have any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation. Okay, we will now move to County Executive Item 7B, County Fiscal Implications. Graham Knaus presenting.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Graham Knaus from the CEO's office, and I'm here this morning 2 weeks after the November 6th, 2012 election to provide a brief update related to potential fiscal implications and what may lie ahead related to the county. There were a number of initiatives placed before voters at the election, two significant on the fiscal side that impact the state, one of which also has a direct impact on us. The first and the largest of the two is Proposition 30, which both has a quarter-cent sales tax increase beginning January of 2013, so in about 6 weeks. That would generate about $1.5 billion for each of the next 4 years. And then also a personal income tax increase for those with incomes over $250,000 that would be in place for 7 years, and that's graduated with a few different thresholds that are in there. Altogether, that's $6 to $7 billion that would be additional tax revenue that would be brought into the state, thereby mitigating the need for the state to put in place $5.9 billion in mid-year trigger reductions, most of which were going to impact K-14 schools. There's another piece of the proposition that wasn't talked about as much, which actually deals with our 2011 realignment of public safety and health and human services programs, and that is constitutionally guaranteeing the revenues that are used to fund that shift in programmatic responsibility. So it doesn't change the amounts, but at least it locks it in whereby the state cannot back those dollars out in a future year. There are a couple of other provisions that are in there that are relevant to us as well, to the extent that there are new federal changes to those very realigned programs or court-imposed changes to those. The state's required to pick up half of that cost. We would be responsible for the remaining 50% of that cost. It also includes some changes related to reimbursability of the Brown Act or the Open Meetings Act, so it permanently removes state responsibility to fund that. We're still required to do it. It just removes the funding, so it pulls that part aside. So we have that in place related to Proposition 30. The second one is Proposition 39, which has a tax methodology change related to multi-state businesses. Under the prior approach, multi-state businesses could choose the better of two different methods related to identifying what their taxable income was for the state of California. They're now all required to use one method, which is referred to as the single sales factor. That has the impact of generating an additional $1 billion in tax revenue for the state. And for the first 5 years under the proposition, about half of that would go to alternative energy or energy efficiency related programs, not yet defined. That would flow somehow through the state structure, the Energy Commission or what have you, so that would flow through there. Voters also approved 3 other initiatives, one related to stiffer penalties for human trafficking in Proposition 35. There was Proposition 36, which has 3 strikes, lessens the approach to 3 strikes, and will trigger resentencing of a number of folks, potentially impacting some of our local AB 109 related population. And then finally, there's Proposition 40, which simply affirmed the state Senate redistricting approach that was already approved earlier this year. So what's that all mean? Certainly there are higher taxes as it relates to folks as residents of California and of the county. Also the revenue associated with that at the state level, which should reduce the magnitude of the deficits that the state has faced. The current estimate is there's about a $900 million shortfall to get to zero in the current year that they would work through when they come back in January, would be folded into the governor's budget. We do have that protection of the realignment revenues, which is, that's a very good thing related to shifting programmatic responsibilities. And when we look ahead, these changes really set a foundation for what will be another large round of realignment of state-county services over the course of the coming year. Mostly focusing on federal health reform and some of the human services programs and the cost, what our county share of that cost may be. So that's likely to be discussed as we move forward into January. There's also another change that was unexpected by a number of folks related to the balance of power within the legislature that is shifting to a supermajority on the part of the Democrats. First time a single party will have a supermajority in the legislature for nearly 80 years, although that may be more on paper than in reality, given that several folks that are in the Senate were just elected to Congress, and so there are special elections to occur in terms of working that out. To the extent that that is realized, there may be a more ambitious policy agenda to some degree than what has been seen for the prior several years that could have some county impacts, and so we would continue to engage your board in what those may be and what impacts they may have as it relates to our county operations. The last thing I would say in terms of as we look forward is that from a local county perspective, we are in the early stages of our 2013-14 budget, so we're doing preliminary revenue estimates, looking through all the potential costs and what they may look like for next year, and attempting to reconcile those with the path related to the sustainability approach of our overall budget and operations. So we'll be pulling that together and the associated budget recommendations over the coming weeks and begin engaging with departments, and we'll report back to your board as we get some early into 2013 in terms of where we're at, what the picture looks like, and what some of the potential options to consider may be as it relates to the county operation. The last thing, the real last thing actually, that I would say is relative to ending on a good note. One of our fall projects here has been related to coming up with what amounts to a budget snapshot. So we have a big book that's hundreds and hundreds of pages related to our budget and talking about county priorities and services. And so in an effort to assist with the communication to the public, we've come up with a trifold. So it's a short version of what's in the budget, boils it down, and it's out to print, so we should have that over the course of the next week or so. We'll be delivering those to your offices, so this reflects the 12-13 budget, so we would use this as a model as we move forward. And there were a number of folks that were involved in this effort. I'm just the fortunate one that gets to actually hold it up and show it. But so it's really intended to boil down what we do in a way that's more accessible to the public as we continue to look at how we package our services and priorities in a way that's intuitive and understood by members of the public that may not know all the intricacies of what we do here in the county. So you'll see that very shortly. And with that, I have nothing else to add unless you have any specific questions.
Supervisor Duran?
Yes, thank you, Graham, very much. Just one question or comment. I'm going to assume that you will put that pamphlet on the website as well?
Yes, absolutely.
People can download. Thank you.
I see no, Supervisor Euler.
Avoiding the temptation to comment on the wisdom of the passage of a number of these propositions, I will simply remind you, and I know that you understand, that the revenue projections that attend the passage of these propositions and the tax increases assume no change in behavior. And history has certainly shown us that when taxes are raised on individuals or business sectors, yes, behavior does change in reaction to that. So before we get too excited about what the revenue projections might mean here in the county or in the state, let's give it a year or two to actually play out and see how businesses respond to the increased tax burden on them here in the state and what that actually translates into in terms of the revenue. Let's not spend it yet. Thank you.
Indeed.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Any member of the public like to comment or ask any questions on this item? All right, seeing none. Graham, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation. All right, we will move to departmental item 8, facility services. 2 items to do with SMD 3, just for a change of pace.
Good morning, Chair Montgomery, members of the board. Bill Zimmerman with Facility Services. I have Kevin Bell here with me this morning, and we have 2 requests for you related to the Sewer Maintenance District 3 Regional Sewer Project. The first is a request that you adopt a resolution certifying the environmental impact report and the mitigation monitoring reporting plan for the project. And our second is that you approve the project plans and specifications and authorize staff to solicit construction bids. What we'd like to do is to provide you with some background on the district and the project, and then from there move through our requested actions individually. Sewer Maintenance District 3 was established in 1960. It provides sewer service to about 610 equivalent dwelling units or single-family homes in the Horseshoe Bar area. Overall growth in the area is pretty slow. We get a handful of new connections each year, but there's really limited potential for any major developments in the district. Our current monthly O&M fee, operation and maintenance fee, is just under $112 a month. That's the largest fee that we charge in any of our sewer districts, and that provides us with an annual operating budget of right around $900,000 a year. The SMD3 wastewater treatment plant was constructed in 1962. It uses some older technologies that aren't capable of meeting our current discharge standards. And in the mid-2000s, we had a consultant conduct a study that determined that regionalization was the most cost-effective compliance solution in the long term. And as a follow-up to that, in January of 2008, your board sent a letter to the Regional Water Quality Control Board notifying them of the county's intent to regionalize SMD3. As a result of our not being able to meet our discharge standards, we had been receiving fines of about $180,000 a year, mostly for metals and disinfection byproducts, chlorine residuals. In February of 2012, the Regional Water Quality Control Board issued a cease and desist order that provided us protection from those fines. And that cease and desist order was based upon the county committing to proceed with the regionalization project. It included a number of milestones related to that project, including having the project out to bid in November of this year, being in a position where we could start construction in April of next year, and then ultimately being in full compliance with our permit by December of 2014. And we anticipate that if we miss that final compliance date, that our mandatory fines will go up to $400,000 to $500,000 a year, and will also be open to discretionary fines from the Regional Water Quality Control Board. The SMD3 Regional Sewer Project includes decommissioning Plant 3 and removing the effluent from Miners Ravine. It includes constructing a new pump station on that site, and then constructing about 13,000 linear feet of pressurized sewer pipeline along Auburn-Folsom Road down into SMD2, which serves the Granite Bay area, and the connection point would be at the intersection of Twin Rocks Road and Auburn Folsom Road. From there, the wastewater would flow down through the SMD2 trunk system down into Roseville and ultimately be treated at the City of Roseville's wastewater treatment plant. The project will accommodate our existing 600 users plus an additional 200 future connections. We do have the ability to, with additional upsizing in the SMD2 collection system, to accommodate up to an additional 600 EDUs. Our total estimated project cost is $13.9 million. A couple things I want to point out about that is that in the design, construction management, and environmental costs, there was about $500,000 worth of modeling associated with the SMD2 trunk lines that will benefit us as we move into the future. And I also wanted to point out that about $5 million of the total project costs are associated with connection fees paid to Sewer Maintenance District 2 for the use of their trunk lines, and then Roseville for the use of their trunk lines and also the wastewater treatment plant. On the funding side, we've received federal grant funding from the Army Corps of Engineers of about $2.5 million. Previous general fund contribution approved by your board for $900,000 that was used for matching funds for the grant money. And at present, the remaining $10.5 million is unfunded. And as we work our way through the bidding process, we'll be working through that and have a funding plan and recommendation when we come back at the time to award the construction contract. At this point, I'm going to turn things over to Kevin and let him walk you through the environmental process.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. The initial study for the project and the notice of preparation was circulated in December 2011, and a public scoping meeting was held in January 2012. During that process, the county received 6 public comments from other agencies which the county considered in preparation of the draft EIR. The county evaluated 4 project alternatives as part of the draft EIR, including a no project alternative, an alignment that includes a force main through the Hidden Valley Community Association open space area, an alignment constructed completely in the Auburn Folsom Road right-of-way, and an alignment that included upsizing a portion of an existing sewer within Hidden Valley. I'll explain the original preferred alignment in more detail in the next slide. The draft EIR was distributed on June 22nd for public review and comment in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act and the National Environmental Policy Act, which is required as a result of the funding that we received from the Army Corps of Engineers. The preferred project included in the draft EIR was the Hidden Valley force main alignment, which would construct a pipeline from the SMD3 wastewater treatment plant site. It's hard to see the pointer on there, but it's near Dick Cook Road on Auburn Folsom Road, and would construct a pipeline down Auburn Folsom Road to Twin Rocks Road. And at Twin Rocks Road, it would diverge from Auburn Folsom and follow an existing pipe through the Hidden Valley open space area. For the draft EIR, it was determined that all impacts could be mitigated to less than significant with mitigation measures that included the typical mitigation measures, in addition to a couple of additional mitigation measures for biological resources and traffic effects. County staff presented information on this project at the Horseshoe Bar and Granite Bay Max in May and June, and the public draft EIR was circulated in June of this year. The county received 19 written comments during the public comment period for the draft EIR and 1 late arriving correspondence, the majority of which were from residents within the Hidden Valley community, and they expressed their concerns regarding the potential effects of that portion of the project as within Hidden Valley. The late arriving correspondence from the legal representative to Hidden Valley included a remaining concern regarding the county's use of the existing easement within Hidden Valley, both for construction of the proposed, the originally preferred alignment, as well as maintenance of our existing pipe within Hidden Valley. As a result of the concerns expressed by the Hidden Valley residents, the county revised the design and the preferred alignment to stop the construction at Twin Rocks Road, which would avoid the impacts in Hidden Valley. One of the benefits of this tie-in location is that it actually allows us to install an additional manhole that includes instrumentation that's designed to communicate back to the pump station at SMD3, so that if flows in that manhole on the existing pipe start to increase, we can shut off the pumps or divert to storage. So it's an opportunity to reduce any potential risk of spilling at that location. The modified alignment was then presented to the Granite Bay MAC at their August 1st meeting, which was 5 days prior to the public comment period for the draft EIR. We did receive a number of the public comments early in the public comment period, which allowed us to make these revisions and still get out the revised alignment as part of the public draft process. The advantages of the modified alignment, one being the additional manhole that I described, but it also reduces traffic effects along Auburn-Folsom. One of the other alignments that we considered was to continue along Auburn-Folsom Road, which would have increased traffic impacts to the folks that use that road. It avoids the impacts within Hidden Valley, minimizes the impacts to biological resources that were in Hidden Valley because it's an open space. There are oak woodlands within there. And it is also a lower initial project cost. So county staff, along with the environmental consultant, met with the Hidden Valley Community Association representatives and their attorney during the preparation of the final EIR to discuss at length the concerns that they had expressed in the comment letters in an effort to clearly understand their concerns and address them to the best of our ability. Based on the public comments received, I skipped a slide there, I apologize for that. Based on the public comments received and subsequent meetings with the representatives of Hidden Valley, staff finalized the EIR. And the final EIR includes the comments received, county responses, revisions to the draft EIR, and the new preferred alignment, as well as a mitigation monitoring and reporting plan. The final EIR was circulated to those who commented on the draft, and a notice of availability was published in local newspapers, informing the public about where the final EIR could be located. As discussed previously, county staff did receive one late arriving correspondence from the Hidden Valley Community Association legal representative, and as a result of that letter, there is no revision required to the final EIR. In terms of the NEPA, I discussed that earlier, I mentioned that earlier. The Army Corps of Engineers anticipates finalizing and adopting their finding of no significant impact in the near future. And as Bill mentioned, our first recommended action for your board this morning is to adopt a resolution certifying the environmental impact report and mitigation monitoring and reporting program for the SMD3 Regional Sewer Project and direct staff to file a notice of determination. We do have staff and consultants available if there are questions, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board? Supervisor Wygant.
I don't think it's not clear to me anyway on the map. The page 2, the plant is actually at the very southerly portion of the collection system, correct?
Of the SMD3
SMD3,
collection system.
correct.
That's correct. It's right on the boundary between SMD3 and SMD2.
And currently discharges into Linda Creek?
Into Miners Ravine.
Miners Ravine.
Yeah.
And then what are the connection fees, SMD3 currently?
You have that, Kevin?
I do. I thought I had it. I don't have that in front of me.
If you could email
I believe they're on the order of around $6,000.
$6,000, okay.
I believe, but we'll get you that information.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything else, Robert? Nope. Any other questions from the board? I had a couple of quick questions. I don't know if these would be, which of you would want to answer these. You indicated on the 5th slide that the project would serve existing users plus 200 future connections, but then stated that with upsizing, it could serve up to 600 additional EDUs. Would that be an existing need, or would that allow a rezoning of properties for additional development?
existing build-out, my recollection is it's around 1,800, but that would be every piece of property in the district subdividing to its full potential. So I think it would serve the existing zoning.
Okay, thank you. On the unfunded amount on slide 6 of $10,500,000, I assume we're looking at the SRF in the same way we are as SMD1 for some funding on this?
We've learned a lot through the process of working with the SRF folks on SMD1, and we'll be having similar conversations to see what we can work out with them.
Okay, yeah, and I'll look forward to what other alternatives that you bring back to the board and having a discussion on that, because I think that's it's a chunk of change that we're looking at there. What was the slide 10? You said we had one comment from the State Water Resources Control Board. What was just sort of the tenor of that comment?
That was actually in relation to if we were to pursue SRF funding, they have a number of requirements that we'd have to comply with, and so that was that's basically what that letter was.
So it really was not a comment on the project, it was a comment on a process?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then the link correspondence that we did receive, I'm assuming it's the October 30th letter, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and if I read it correctly, that comment was only relevant to the original alignment?
Yes, that's true. There were some points in there that had to do with ongoing maintenance of the existing sewer line as well, and County Council is working on responding to that.
Okay, all right. I think that was it for me. Any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience like to comment or ask any questions on this agenda item? Now is your opportunity. If you would like to, please come forward. Identify yourself for the record. Good morning.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Osha Meserve, and I'm counsel for Hidden Valley Community Association, and I've been working with county staff on this project. And I just wanted to make a couple brief comments just to sort of orient you all as to where the community association stands with respect to this project now. We did raise our concerns to staff early on in the process, and by the time of the advisory committee meeting in Granite Bay, staff had looked at the issue further and really honed in on what we were saying and concluded that the impacts of doing an alternative more like Alternative B and not running the expanded line right through the middle of the open space in Hidden Valley would work a lot better. And not only is that open space something that the community members use, but it's also an important biological area with Miners Ravine running through it, a lot of oak woodlands, birds, other sensitive resources. So we did submit detailed public comments on the EIR, however, since it did include the Alternative A of running through Hidden Valley with the expansion. And we pointed out a lot of the problems with the analysis with respect mostly to Alternative A. And it's our understanding from the staff report given today and our prior discussions with staff that really the project that is being proposed for approval today is Alternative B, and that's the plans that are included in your packet, and that Alternative A is not being pursued at this time. But just because the certification of the EIR with the three alternatives would leave open the possibility that Alternative A could be pursued in the future, we just want to make clear a couple of points. First of all, that we still feel that the EIR is not adequate with respect to Alternative A. It really didn't look in detail enough at the biological impacts of doing that scale of a construction project through a sensitive area like that. And also, as described in the letter that you've referenced that I wrote following up on the easement issue, the county really doesn't have adequate easements to do an expanded project. There is an existing easement for the existing sewer line that runs through Hidden Valley, but it really doesn't permit the scope of work and that would occur with Alternative A. And I'll, correspond further with county staff about the ongoing maintenance issue and just making sure we do have an issue with trespassing within Hidden Valley. And so it's really important for the community that they receive as much notice as possible regarding any access into Hidden Valley. So that it's not mixed up with trespassers and they can keep track of who's there. And I would suggest that with respect to the alternative being adopted, that it, the way the staff report and the resolution read, it really isn't clear that it's alternative B being adopted, and I would recommend that that be made more clear, and that when, for instance, in the resolution it says the project, somebody could pencil in there alternative B, and that should also be in the NOD as well. That would be filed. May I briefly continue? Or?
If you could wrap it up very quickly.
Okay, thank you. We are still concerned about the impact on Miners Ravine because the discharge is a source of water for that creek, and we would like to ask that the county would work with us in the future on habitat improvement projects within Miners Ravine. I guess and also we would ask that the county coordinate with us regarding the manholes that might be placed at Twin Rocks Road, because we are working on a water supply system with PCWA, and we will need to coordinate those efforts to make sure that there's not a problem with the pipelines. So in closing, most of our concerns were addressed with respect to alternative B. Staff was very helpful and responsive, and we want to thank staff for that. And also CEQA did sort of do what it's supposed to do, which is to make projects better and avoid environmental impacts, and we appreciate that process, and we look forward to cooperating with the county in the future.
Thank you very much. Bill, in relation to a couple of the issues raised there, is the county already working with PCWA to any extent to coordinate these various pipeline projects?
I don't believe so, but we're happy to contact them and have that conversation.
Yeah, I would suggest that would probably be to our benefit to do that. Mm-hmm. Any other members of the public want to comment or ask any questions about this item? All right, seeing none, I will bring it back to the board. What's the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I would move the board adopt a resolution certifying the environmental impact report and mitigation monitoring plan for alternative B for the SMD3 regional project, and direct staff to file the notice of determination.
All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
And we also, I believe, need to move the approval of the plans and specifications for alternative B and authorize staff to solicit bids for the SMD3 regional project and return to the board at the time of award for construction contract addressing project funding, and that's the motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
And thanks to the members of the community who came out to hear this item today. We'll move to departmental item 9, Health and Human Services, Adult System of Care, Contract Employee, Maureen Baumann presenting.
Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. Maureen Baumann with the Director of the Adult System of Care. So for this board, I have 2 items for you that I'm bringing forward. The first is what the supervisor mentioned, the contract with Steve Sugden, and the second is for a locked psychiatric health facility. So this item is for a request to renew a contract with Dr. Steve Sugden. He's a staff psychiatrist, and the contract term is from December 1st, 2012 through November 30th, 2013, with a direct compensation of $285,000 for a total compensation not to exceed $342,000, of which $119,000 is county general fund. The Adult System of Care, as you know, is mandated to provide psychiatric services, and in our psychiatric health facility, our PUF, we saw 736 persons in the last year. These are people that are served in their most acute state. We treat them there because they have a danger to themselves, danger to other, or they're gravely disabled. And Dr. Steve Sugden is the primary psychiatrist that is assigned in our PUF services. He's a seasoned practitioner, has extensive experience both inpatient and inpatient, both in the private sector as well as in the county. And having him full-time on our PUF has been hugely effective. He's able to provide continuity of care in all critical service areas, including medication management, consistency and familiarity with patients and their families, consistency with interfacing with crisis, the emergency departments, law enforcement, and partners providing our on-call services, as well as coordinating services with the county staff. He does possess many skills. He's bilingual in Spanish. He's experienced in addiction treatment and well-versed in legal, ethical, and risk management issues related to this very at-risk population. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. Oh, one last thing. This contract is the same as it was last year. A little bit of increase in health insurance, about $1,400, but basically the same in terms of the staff psychiatrist. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but recommend approval.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah,
Supervisor Duran.
I just have one question. What, is there a reason why we don't have a longer than 1 year? Is it his preference to have just a year-to-year contract, or?
It's historically been the county preference, but that's a good question and certainly something we could review. I think it's just been a practice we put in place since we'd established these contract employees. It gives us ultimate flexibility in terms of ceasing if we don't wish to continue it, but they're set up as a contract, so we can do that. So I think that would be a good suggestion we
Yeah,
should
because it
explore.
seems to me if we've already, I remember the situation coming up last year where he left for a while, and then, we needed him back, and I just want to make sure that if there is that need there, that, we continue to have this contracted
Absolutely.
professional here,
Great suggestion. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board on this item? All right, seeing none, any member of the audience like to comment or ask any questions on this item? Okay, what's the pleasure of the board? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries. Item B?
The next item for your consideration is a new 2-year contract with an organization called Vista Pacifica Enterprises. It's a locked psychiatric facility. It's a 2-year contract in an amount not to exceed $300,000, $180,000 county cost, to provide mandated intensive mental health services. This is for people that would have exited the PUF but were not able to return to the community and still need to be in a secure environment. Vista Pacifica is a new provider for Placer County, and we have brought one before you not too long ago. And so we are looking beyond our region to find places that will accept specific individuals. And we are really pleased to bring this provider forward. They have an excellent reputation with the county surrounding them, and they will provide services to Placer County residents who require a structured, therapeutic, secure environment. We are a little concerned that it is so far away, but again, we are specifically looking for services for individuals. Just a sense of scale, about 5,000 people are served in mental health services over the years, and about 25 of them are who need this kind of really particular specialized services. So we will work hard to keep people there only as long as possible, bring them back to Placer County. We have a team in place to do that. So again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but recommend approval.
I see no questions from the board. Would anyone from the audience like to comment on this item? All right, seeing none, what's the pleasure of the board? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Maureen. We will adjourn now as the Placer County Board of Supervisors and convene as the Placer County In-Home Support Services Public Authority to hear item 10, also Maureen Baumann, In-Home Support Services Public Authority.
So this final item is requested of the In-Home Support Services Public Authority Board. It's the approval of the Public Authority budget for fiscal year 12-13 in the amount of $784,000. The amount of county contribution, mandated amount of contribution, is $198,428 in terms of that budget. So the Public Authority budget was Public Authority was established December 3rd, 2002 by the California Welfare and Institutions Code 12302.25. The authority is a separate legal entity whose purpose is to provide assistance to IHSS recipients in finding independent home care providers through the establishment of a registry. In addition, for the purpose of labor negotiations regarding wages, benefits, and other terms and conditions of employment, the authority is deemed to be the employer of record for the IHSS independent providers. The authority uses a contract with Placer County to purchase needed services for operations, including personnel. It has provided the required services for recipients and providers since it was established. Of the 3,000 IHSS recipients to be served in 12-13, approximately 300 will need the services of the registry. But the authority staff will also provide approximately 2,000 IHSS providers with employment, enrollment, orientation, training, support, and counseling services during 12-13. It is staffed by 6 county staff who are assigned to this unit. The manager supporting the Public Authority as a part of the Adult System and Care budget, and time is dedicated to the Public Authority and is billed by the Adult System and Care to the Public Authority unit. So the Public Authority budget is limited to the responsibilities of IHSS provider registry, background checks, training, and negotiations. The county share of the IHSS provider wages is identified in the Human Services Client Aid budget. So specifically, this budget is comprised of $435,000 in state and federal revenue, $150,000 that is a transfer from the Adult System of Care, and $198,000, as I mentioned, in county general funds. So answer any questions, but recommend approval of the budget.
I see no questions from our board. Would any member of the audience like to comment on this? All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. We will adjourn as the Placer County In-Home Support Services Public Authority and reconvene as the Placer County Board of Supervisors, and then go immediately into closed session. Jerry.
The board will now adjourn into closed session to discuss conference with labor negotiators regarding the DSA, Deputy Sheriff's Association. The board will then adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and convene as the Placer County In-Home Support Services Authority to have a conference with its labor negotiators regarding the United Domestic Workers of America. It will then adjourn as the In-Home Services Authority and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and then report out.
Wow, gymnastics.